Hey everyone, I'm glad to finally be back with my fourth devlog. It's been some time and I have a ton to show for it. So grab some food, take a seat, and enjoy. So after the last video where I introduced the boats, some of you were asking where the swimming was. Well, the answer to that is here now. To get it added, I created a similar floating script to the boats so the player could float in the water. I wanted to have some diving mechanics to be able to reach the ocean floor, so I did this by raising and lowering the depth at which the player will be submerged, making it so we trick the floating object or the player into diving and ascending in the water, as you can see here. Now we are lacking animations, so I went over to Blender and made some swimming, forward and backward animations. I'll probably add, an idle eventually, and this looks a lot better. What I need to do now is make underwater look a little bit more like it's underwater. I did this by creating a giant trigger box and applying post-processing effects to it, as well as making the water plane two-sided so we can see the surface of the water from the bottom. I'll probably make changes to all these over time as I figure out some other ways to make it look a little bit more like you're underwater. And eventually I'll be adding aquatic life and shipwrecks and other things such as vegetation to the ocean to really make it feel like it's less barren. Around this point, I also made some changes to the armature or skeleton of the player and added a few new animations which will be used for two-handed weapons, and I also added rolling, and in the future there will be sliding and jumping attacks. I finally got around to implementing leg armor or pants. For some reason I kept holding it off when it was just so easy to do. Some of these pants will also be coming with boots or shoes, so we don't have to worry about a boot slot in the equipment inventory. For the first dungeon, I wanted something small with a simple puzzle leading to an easy but memorable boss battle. I started drafting up some ideas for a dungeon, one being it's full of ogres with an entrance similar to Shrek's stump, but I recycled that idea for now and decided to make it more of a traditional dungeon with a gated door and filled it with spiders instead. It's not a difficult dungeon to navigate. It currently has a few different empty rooms which will be filled with loot and other valuables, and after a bit of wandering in there you'll eventually make it to a prison-like room which has the puzzle in it. After completing it, a secret door will open up, revealing a staircase to a cave, which will be the beginning of the boss battle. I then imported everything to Unity and cut a hole in the terrain on the starting island and fit the dungeon there using some rocks to blend it in. To make the dungeon feel dark and gritty, I created a few post-processing triggers and effects, making it darker the deeper you get. To start the dungeon, you will have to receive a key. Currently it's just placed right outside the entrance, but there will be a quest of some sort to receive it in the future. Now the puzzle is going to be a simple lever puzzle, and there's 6 cell doors that can be opened and closed with levers. The player will need to figure out the order in which to flip the levers to activate the secret door. I'll be changing the order of the levers off camera, so this is not the order that'll be in the final game. But for the levers, I just created a simple animation for both the doors and levers and added interact functions to them, triggering the animation and calling to a manager script that the door has been opened or closed to determine whether or not the secret door will open or not. I worked on some animations for the secret door and made a nice set of stones on the ground that'll open up to reveal deeper parts of the dungeon. I plan to do a lot of secret doors or puzzles around the game, so if you have any ideas for some more puzzles, I'd really appreciate them. This leads us to the final part of the dungeon, the boss battle. Right before the boss battle, you'll be faced against a new spider that is harmful and quick. I've been calling it the blood spider, and they are mostly white with some red spots, and they spawn from these glowing red sacs that you can destroy. The sacs right now are only temporary, as I'm messing around with shaders to find a good look, so don't question their appearances. And after breaking one of the spider sacs, a lever will be revealed, and when flipping that lever, the door to the boss battle will open, hence triggering the beginning of the boss battle. Now for the boss itself, I originally wanted to create some giant rock creature, but being in a dungeon full of spiders, a rock spider fit pretty well. The story behind the boss is it caused havoc to the villagers in the world above, where he was then locked away for countless years, and he's been upset and angry, digging his way out of his cell. It'll be the player's job to end his chaos to prevent any theoretical problems. I modeled him in Blender using the same armature as the other spiders, just creating specific animations for him. I imported him into Unity and created pretty precise hit reg colliders, and I really don't understand how some other games get hit registration so wrong, because it really was not that difficult to do. Now as for his attacks, he is a bit more complex than the other spiders. He has two phases of attacks, the first phase being melee attacks, where he will do a ground slam or a sweep melee, and the second phase initiates when he gets below half health, where he will start doing ranged attacks with burst of rocks. The way I did his first phase of attacks is by creating a separate trigger which will hold the radius of the ground slam and sweep. This trigger is turned on at the exact moment of impact, and if you're in radius, it'll deal damage and knockback. I added particle effects to go with the attack, so it seems like it's more impactful. As for the second phase, I created a new particle system in the shape of a hemisphere, emitting rock prefabs with colliders. I then edited the speed or velocity curve to dampen for a second, then sped it up drastically, making it look like it had a burst of energy. I added the animation and timed it with the burst, then added my damage script and used a on-particle collision function to determine whether or not to deal damage and knockback. That's going to be all for today. If you liked what you saw and don't want to be one of the 92.5% of people that are not subscribed and will most likely miss future videos, take a second to subscribe and leave a like and hit that bell if you want notifications. Also, I've been thinking of occasionally streaming some of my work over on Twitch. If you want to see that, my Twitch will be in the description below, as well as my Discord and Twitter. And once again, thank you guys for being patient for this devlog. I've been filling these videos up with so much time and effort, so every view, comment, like, and sub means so much. And as always, don't forget to wash your hands, wear a mask, and wipe your ass. Alright, see ya.